As It Were Production presents...
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to A Couple of Old Fashions with Becca and Joe. Joe, Becca. You know what it is. I'm Joe Lynch, or am I, maybe?
I'm Joe Lynch.
No, I'm Joe Lynch. I'm Spartacus.
Yeah, well, we're basically the same, I guess, person. Fortunately.
Yes, fortunately.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I'll do the spiel this time, since we're the same.
That would be wonderful. After you.
So welcome to the Couple of Old Fashions show, the show for movie lovers by movie lovers, where the sorting hat randomly allocates a theme for us. Every week we go away, we pick a movie that we think best fits that theme, we bring it here, present it to one another, watch them as a double feature, decide whether or not we liked it in a discussion following the double feature, and then, go home and have cake.
Well, welcome back. It's so good to see you guys.
Wait, how was it?
That was great.
Oh, okay.
I would have said cut and take two.
Yeah.
It was your own natural representation of my somewhat tight
Yeah, well,
delivery
you've
that I
had a
get.
lot more opportunities to get it tight. I'm still in the flabby stage of my monologue.
You're a little loose, but
Yeah.
that's okay. Very excited for this week because the sorting hat picked at random a very cool theme. I didn't want to approach. Oh, you're gonna, all right, ready? Hold on, ready?
No, I'm doing it because we're swapping places.
Okay, ready?
A hole-in-one.
Yes.
I consider a hole-in-one to be more of like the esoteric idea of achieving all at once, getting a hole-in-one, so to speak. So the film I picked that I thought best kind of went with that vibe was There Will Be Blood.
If you're here for Caddyshack, you ain't getting it. So,
Yeah.
leave your tin cup fandom at the door because, wow. And I haven't even said my choice yet. And it is that hole is going to be fucking dark. So, There Will Be Blood. Okay. All right. I have been meaning to watch this movie again for a very long time. P.T. Anderson movies for me are like a long sit. My pick, is a movie that I'm pretty sure you haven't seen yet and is one that I saw as a kid, very young, and has kind of left a mark on me for a very long time, and that is the 1979 Disney sci-fi thriller, The Black Hole. Yes, I didn't go with golf, I didn't do Caddyshack 2, but I did go pretty on the nose again, so you would think.
Yeah,
No. And you haven't seen it, right? Okay, I'm very excited for this because I am very curious to see what you think of this movie. It came out at a time when everyone wanted Star Wars and Disney said, let's go darker. So this is going to be a fun one.
What else do you have going on today?
Well, what else do I have going on today is the sponsorship for DIABOLIKDVD.com, the place where you can get all your favorite physical media like your cult films and your weird films and your funky films. Go to DIABOLIKDVD.com, our sponsor for this episode, where both of us will, at the break, talk about additional films that fit the hole-in-one theme that you can get only, or in addition to, DIABOLIKDVD.com. So, what's the order going to be? Now, I've seen both films. You've only seen one of them. But if you're looking for a dark and haunted housey meets Moby Dicky meets Dracula-y type movie, that's kind of Black Hole, with an all-star cast, by the way. Or do we go with the longer full meal of P.T. Anderson's There Will Be Blood?
It's hard to say when I haven't seen one of the films, hard to curate. I mean, in no universe is There Will Be Blood a B picture, but you seem to want to watch a black hole, so...
Well, I think you will appreciate, because There Will Be Blood stays with you for a long time. I think Black Hole's a little more disposable, but it's got an ending that is a bit of a gut punch. So I say Black Hole first, There Will Be Blood second, and then we'll come back to the desk and we will talk about both films and see if we also made a hole in two for this theme. To the couch.
And now it's A Couple of Old Fashions with Becca and Joe. This week's episode, A Hole-in-One.
And we are back.
I'm finished.
Wow. Oh, the final moment of There Will Be Blood is one of the greatest endings of all time.
Yes.
You know what's not one of the greatest endings of all time, but in a weird unsatisfying, esoteric, dark, not Star Wars way.
Spoilers, I guess, straight off the bat.
We're going right into spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
I kind of love how weird it was, but let's start at the beginning.
Yes.
There is an inexorable force in the cosmos where time and space converge, where the here and now may be forever. An unavoidable whole, moving through space, swallowing everything in its path. Now, man is about to enter the black hole. A journey that begins where everything ends.
So if you haven't seen The Black Hole, it came out in 1979. The director was Gary Nelson, who was mostly known for doing Freaky Friday and a lot of TV shows. This was Disney's first foray into darker, more adult territory. They've essentially remade 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea just in space. The cast is unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
Maximilian Schell, Robert Forster, Anthony Perkins, Ernest Borgnine, Yvette Mimieux. It was actually supposed to be Sigourney Weaver.
Yvette Mimieux, but whatever.
Mimieux. But in Becca, it's so much nicer. So the movie follows a research vessel called the Palomino, and they stumble upon the USS Cygnus, which was this huge, sprawling spaceship that has been missing for years. They find it kind of floating out into the distance right next to a black hole.
I love the beginning as well. Like the very first shot is literally just orchestral music.
That
for
John Barry
several...
score trying to do John Williams, that wow, 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 wow. It's like immediately gives you the creeps.
But when it first started, it's just the score over a black screen. And I was like, is this just like a 40x experience of a black hole?
Ready? That is the last overture that has been in theaters for almost 40 years. That was the last film that had an actual film overture, back when they actually had overtures in movies. It goes right into, during the credits, it goes into a very early version of a CG hole. That's like a kind of visual representation of the hole. First time that they used graphics,
what
computer
is
graphics.
space if not one giant black hole?
Well, it is represented in the film by this really kind of beautiful special effect of this swirling black hole that's in the distance.
You get to establish the dynamics of the crew out in space where no one can hear you scream. You know, you really rely on your crew. That's like your family. They have to look out for one another. There's no room for a hole in one. If you're one person out on your own, you're gonna die. I mean, this is space. There's a great moment where they establish there's two robots that are one robot that's part of the crew, Vincent, voiced by Roddy McDowell, which was an excellent choice.
It's like they took R2-D2 and C-3PO and put it all together in one character.
Not quite as sophisticated as Data, but he can experience emotions. He does have a sense of humor. He gives these kind of fractured expressions and idioms and stuff for every situation. He's like, that reminds me, a stitch in time saves 9. It's like, what are you talking about? Yeah. I like that they give him these kind of quirks like a real human character. And in many ways, he's actually better written and given more depth than a lot of the humans on the ship, which is fun. And early on, the ship encounters some trouble. Vincent gets untethered from the ship. And I thought there was a really lovely moment where the second in command says, we have to save him. And the captain's like, stay at your post. And the second in command is like, well, if it was one of us, you would save him. And the captain says, he is one of us. Yeah. And then
good old Robert Forster.
Yeah. He was already retethering Vincent back to the ship and prioritizing saving him as well as the crew. And I just thought that was a really lovely moment to establish
the camaraderie.
Because there are so many dynamics in play throughout the film about AI, humanity, what it means to be human.
Yeah.
I love that they established so early on that they consider Vincent human.
One of them. Yep. So once they get on the ship, they meet Maximilian Schell, who also has a robot of his own, also named Maximilian.
Vincent is incredibly anthropomorphized. Like, they've given him 2 big eyes. And he's so cute and bumbling about. He has all this character traits. And then Maximilian, who is
evil as
Reinhardt's head robot.
Basically, it's like if Reinhardt was the emperor, Maximilian is Darth Vader.
Yeah, he has like no voice. He's just got this one red laser beam where his eyes should be. It's just a giant glorified trash can. He kind of looks
red
like.
as he floats around everywhere.
He doesn't kill them. He's friendly. He removes.
He wears his ulterior motive on his face from the moment they're at they have this dinner scene.
He removes their weapons from them. So clearly he's a little bit suspicious. But Anthony Perkins, who's the science officer aboard the ship, is very floored by him. Clearly he spent a lot of his own career studying the career of Reinhardt, so he's all like, oh my god, he's such a genius. Ooh, my hero. And
I got the vapors.
So exactly, so he's like very defensive of Reinhardt's motives. Earth has assumed that Reinhardt, his whole crew and his ship has been lost at sea, lost at space, because they haven't heard from them in 20 years. Turns out Reinhardt has, when they discovered the black hole, he claims that he sent the crew home, stayed on board the ship to study it. So basically says that he's been alone on this great big ship for the last 20 years, except for his robot army that he's created. Which I also love, that he's created this huge robot army, aside from his like army of like military robots. Maximilian, of whom is the head of, there's a whole group of like worker bee robots who are like
robes and these cool like mirrored,
these reflective surfaces, so that if you look at them you see just your own face reflected back at you, and they kind of made me think of like the look of, I guess, serfs or something in the medieval era, which again, you know, reinforces that Reinhardt is a little bit of a god complex. Like his value system is a little bit twisted at this point. A
lot is twisted about Reinhardt.
Yeah, and Perkins keeps saying like, well, he's just a little eccentric. He's been on his own for the last 20 years. He seems to be playing ball, so to speak, with them. But like, yeah, it's very much, he's been one in a hole by the black hole for a long time. And you can kind of tell from the beginning that his, you know, value of these people's lives is a lot, you know, lower than they would probably want.
The idea of what a black hole was, like, I remember being in science class and, you know, it was this enigma, and this is, you know, after the movie had come out, but even before that, people always talked about like, what is on the other side of a black hole? And the film keeps that as its MacGuffin, because Reinhardt eventually reveals that his ultimate mission, very much like Ahab is trying to find, is to conquer his white whale.
He describes, he compares himself to Columbus. That's his very, what would you say to Columbus? The end justifies the means. And he got all these sayings that are right out of a dictator's handbook of how to devalue human life for the sake of, you know, personal individual achievement. He describes it as like civilization's achievement, but he's thinking about himself. He talks a lot about how the only reason I'm glad like for you guys to be leaving is to spread the word of my achievements back to Earth, and I will give you access to all of my data so that you can tell everyone, spread the word that, you know, I am the king.
There's moments where it feels like he's vamping a little bit, because it's like finally he's not talking to one of his robots. He actually has
an audience,
and not only an audience,
a captive audience,
and not only a captive audience, but opposition. He hasn't had anyone push back on him, and I think that there are moments that you could tell he relishes in it.
They first go on deck of Maximilian's ship, and then the unbelievable shot of him being like with all the screens and the black hole in the foreground. That's beautiful.
I think it's like a super wide angle lens too. Yeah, Gary does such a good job at creating scope.
And then also has all the fun sci-fi gimmicks of like, oh no, we've come across some turbulence, shaky cam. I'm a Star Trek fan, so that shit always gets me. Yvette Mimieux,
we'll fix it in post.
I was a little worried when we first got introduced to her character, because she has this weird telekinetic link to Vincent.
Oh, so and then there's that whole thing.
For a horrible moment, I thought she was going to be like the literal version of the Sigourney Weaver character in Galaxy Quest, where she's like, I just repeat the goddamn computer all the time. But it's a little bit more useful than that. That telekinetic link does turn out to be somewhat even more useful than Deanna Troy's telekinetic link half the time. But
Sigourney Weaver was originally cast as that part, but then Disney killed it because they thought she wasn't hot enough.
I mean,
And then she did Alien and everything was fine.
Forrester and Borgnine don't quite, they're suspicious. And there's an amazing bit where Forrester's off by himself and he finds the old quarters of the missing crew.
Yeah.
And there's just this long matte shot of him going through this long, crazy corridor and passes every single one of the living quarters, and they're all left exactly as the crew's left them, like desks
It's
and
haunting.
stuff. It's really, really creepy.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Borgnine is like off trying to find the botanical gardens that the ship has to feed the crew, and he finds it, and he finds one of those like weird faceless robot like worker bee people,
Which
and
in a great shot where it's like over the shoulder of Ernest Borgnine, and I watch it, I wanted to go back and see it. I couldn't quite tell, because when you do that, like now you can digitally erase the camera, but you really can't see how they got that because you don't see the camera. But when you said that before about
the
like
reflection.
how the reflection, that image, there's so many moments even up to this point that if I was an audience member in 1979 watching this going like, here comes some more lightsabers and pew-pews, the core demographic of people who were who wanted more Star Wars stuff, which was like, 12-year-old boys.
sure.
Like I was, 3 or 4. I saw Cinderella first. It was all at the drive-in. Saw Cinderella first, and that was like, oh my God, I love it. And then Black Hole. And I remember having nightmares after, because it just from a visual standpoint.
Oh, sure, I
it's
can
playing on a
imagine.
completely different level.
Yeah, the first time where I started to predict what the reveal was, the guy's like limping and he's like, almost like a human. And then Forrester goes and sees the robot people doing like a funeral, like their human funeral service, which is such a intensely creepy visual.
It just
Almost
doesn't stop getting creepy.
Yeah, he says himself like almost like a human, and then Reinhardt's like, and the humans on the ship have just, I don't know where they went, they just went away. So around that point I was, oh okay, well the robot crew is definitely 100% the human crew
and
that have just been like roboticized.
That's where the dynamic of that camaraderie of the crew from the beginning starts to fray, because then Anthony Perkins is the one who's going
Hero worshipping.
He is hero worshiping Reinhardt. He's going, we should pursue whatever endeavors he's going on. We should be part of that.
Vincent isn't allowed to eat with the humans, and I love again that they show how much Vincent and the human crew are just like one and this, like the same family, because Vincent's like, I don't want to hang out with the other robots. I'm used to hanging out with human people. What the heck?
Hang out with you guys.
They're a little segregated on this ship. It's like when you see movies of white and black friends visiting the South in like the 1960s, and they have to sit in different parts of a restaurant or a bus or something, even though in the North they never would have had to. It's almost that kind of a feeling.
Yeah, Vincent gets kind of like pushed aside.
But he meets his like generation of robot.
Like a slightly older model named Bob.
Bob, who's voiced by Slim Pickens.
He's so wonderful.
And they're like, he's obviously been bullied by the mean robots that Reinhardt's created. So he's like, his little eyes are kind of like skewed to the side.
He's all
like,
beaten up and battered.
And he just sounds like Slim Pickens the whole time. He's just like, well, I've been on this ship for the last 20 years.
Yep.
And I'm like,
got that drawl.
Yeah, so cute. He's the one who reveals to the audience by telling Vincent that the crew never left and that this is a death ship. Because Reinhardt actually just forcibly lobotomized the entire crew, removed their sense of will, and then just encased them in a robot suit. They never really go into why.
Pish posh.
It is a shocking kind of, especially for a little kid, I imagine that would have been a shocking moment.
Oh my
to have
God.
been like,
I will never forget that reveal.
Perkins is like, I don't believe you, and runs to one of the robot people in shock and rips open the reflective face to reveal this like skeletal, like deflated. That's the director.
Yeah.
Deflated version of a humanoid, like skull-like features almost.
He kind of looks like Bub from Day of the Dead.
Yeah, Reinhardt is depicted in all of his like somewhat, autocratian, like didactic. Yeah,
There's definitely some Reichian kind of overtones
Yeah,
with
super
the way that
mensch
he's
or
presented.
something. Yeah. For a kids movie, you know, I appreciate that they're introducing these kind of themes early on into what like as a child you should start valuing in terms of humanity.
Let me just say that when the movie came out, there was a children's book, and my mom got me that children's book. Guess what was not in the book? All of that. It's speed plotted all the way to, and even they completely leave out the next scene that happens when Anthony Perkins actually kind of says, you know what, you're right. And Maximilian swoops in one of the gnarliest, bloodless deaths I have ever seen.
But I love that they basically get away with it because they don't show any blood, but it's it's gory for a kids movie.
Swoops down to kind of deal with the situation. He's got this like phantasm-esque blade that shoots out, and Anthony Perkins holds up a book.
Yeah, in defense.
In defense, he uses knowledge as a defense.
Yeah.
And the fucking saw goes right through the book into him, and he goes, oh,
yeah.
And then he dies. And it is, again, gruesome.
I know.
Even though there's no blood in it, like you can kind of piece things together.
As
and
a
it
child,
is nasty.
I can imagine a whole bunch of 3-year-olds remembering that
is in
scene
Star Wars.
as gory as heck. Like if you see that as a 3-year-old, your mind is going to be fucking. No wonder you have nightmares. Even as an adult, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, it's shocking and unexpected.
They do such a good job of dehumanizing Maximilian's features. So when that happens, it's also a shocking moment to realize that, Maximilian has also developed free will.
Yeah. There are points where he says, like, don't do that. And Maximilian's like, fuck that.
You.
Skynet has become aware.
Yeah. And Yvette Mimieux is like, if there's any justice in the world, you'll die in that black hole. He's been a victim of his own God complex in that his own creation, Maximilian, is starting to like destroy his world by entering the black hole. His ego is so large that he is the only one who can enter this black hole. And she says it should crush you if there's any justice. You should be killed by your complex.
Is it ego or is it just blind ambition?
I think when he murdered his entire crew.
That was the point of no return.
And we see how he did it too, because Yvette Mimieux gets kidnapped and put into this like merry-go-round of like lobotomy. A lobotomy merry-go-round. I think at that point on, you have to assume that he is completely like ego center of the universe. Like he is the black hole basically, because he wanted, rather than a crew of its own will, he wanted just robots that weren't going to argue back. Like it's interesting that you said like, it's the first time he's had anyone answer back, and that's of his own choice. Like he literally scooped out all the humanity from his crew so that he could just be the one and only voice in this echo chamber.
He also represents like a personification of a black hole, because when you think about what a black hole represents, it is literally sucking stars into its, into its hole. And that's who he is. Everyone who he comes in contact with.
Force of destruction.
Exactly. He is this vacuum of obsession and desire.
Another theme within that is just sort of that you end up reaping what you sow, because you have Perkins as the only crew member to be killed, and it's almost like he's a victim of his own hero worship, blindly following this guy, because he's also starting to see his own name in lights. If he's like, this guy's
if I glom onto this dude,
then I'll be able to. And Reinhardt even says like, you're looking for a direction in your life, aren't you? Well, my direction is right through that black hole, and my name's going to be in the history books. And you see Perkins be like,
he perks up.
He's killed almost as punishment for that. And then Reinhardt's obviously a victim of his own intense God complex. Because when he finally dies, the world he's built around him almost rebels against him when his ship collapses
and envelops
him. And the only other person to die is Bob, but he died. He sacrifices himself to save them when he battles Maximilian.
And drills into him, sending Maximilian into the black hole.
Yes.
Then we get this meteor shower. Huge meteorite is rolling towards them.
Yeah, stunning.
Like even before Raiders of the Lost Ark did it.
It kind of made me think of like a hole in one. It kind of looked like a giant golf ball.
It did. I thought the same thing. It's
like the black hole is like the target.
Oh my God! Wow.
There you go.
We really McGillen.
Hole in one.
Yes, boink, sink.
So funny that like all the people who die, they're the ones who try to cheat death in a way by having their name in lights forever, and the only one to die for a good cause is Bob. But he says like, I'll never actually die. Part of me goes with you, so I'll never actually be obsolete. So again, just like for a kids movie, there's a decent amount of
It's
thematic
fucking deep.
subtext.
It's very deep.
It teaches kids that the only way to actually cheat death is not to try to do it through any kind of like egocentric means, but to leave behind people that are going to pass on the memory of you to others.
They go through the Cygnus also goes through, and it kind of splits off where they go through an almost angelic, very Doug Trumbull brainstorm sort of
it's like
surrealist kind of montage that looks right out of 2001.
I thought it was going to end with them just like, oh my God, I guess we're going through the black hole. What's on the other side? I don't know. And then cut to black. That would have been a really cool ending. Instead, you have the weirdest fucking last 5 minutes.
The movie's edibles kick in.
Yeah, it's so weird. Reinhardt has died, and Maximilian. They both died, but you see them both float in this kind of like black space, and then Maximilian comes up right in front of the frame, like, oh.
Yeah. And not only that, but
like,
now he's older.
And Manson looking like.
And then they merge
with Maximilian, and then you see them in hell.
In literal fucking hell.
Like
with
flames.
Minions and flames.
No, but I don't think that's minions. I think it's the souls of all the people they killed.
Well, whatever. There's little people on rock
it's
things.
Crew.
Oh, that's what they were?
I thought it was the crew. I thought it was the souls of all the people they murdered on the ship, and the hell is now that the crew reap, what he sowed
but why
on
is
him.
the crew in hell? That's not fair to them.
Because for their heaven, maybe, is just getting to like slap him around a bit for doing what he did to them. Because they're torturing them.
I like just the vision of hell that the movie gives you is so fucking dark.
It's almost as creepy as like the Fantasia version.
Yes,
of hell.
that's exactly what it feels like. It feels very Fantasia-esque.
Yeah.
And I guess that's Disney's version of it.
By contrast, you see the rest of the crew go through the black hole.
This ethereal tunnel with weird
white
angels and
light. They go to the white light, like they're ascending to heaven.
I think it perfectly encapsulates the idea that a hole that you have to pass through is what you make of it. And Reinhardt got the hell version, they got the heaven version, and then it leaves you on this last note where they're just kind of flying off into the sunset, so to speak. The only thing missing was a literal horizon and a sunset.
It kind of reminded me slightly of Contact in that, but it's almost like the slapped on at the end, which is like, okay.
I you know what? Very much like Spielberg's AI, where it kind of had one ending too many. I will say that this time around, having not seen it for a very long time, I remember it as a kid being kind of boring. I wasn't bored at all while watching this.
I loved it.
It's incredibly engaging. It's just go in knowing that it's dark. So, take that edible, but as a very dark thriller with a lot of thematic, metaphorical overtones, it fucking sinks the putt.
Yeah. So, very cool movie to have seen. Very interesting way to have started the double feature.
Yes.
I think we need to refreshen our drinks, and then we'll be right back to discuss There Will Be Blood.
So, are you sick of all the Christmas shopping that you have to do, the Cyber Mondays and the Black Fridays and all that crap? It can be tiring. So you know what I like to do after all of that? Sit down and watch a movie. And even better, you know what I like to do even more than that?
I don't know. You're sick of Christmas shopping?
Already, yes. But you know what I'm not sick of? Physical media.
That's a big part of our Christmas shopping.
Well, yeah, because there's nothing better. There's nothing worse than getting a card that's like, oh, buy this movie, or getting some kind of code that says like, you can get this movie on some streaming platform or some VOD section. But when you hold a disc.
I
in your
know. That's
hand.
why we tend to buy each other a lot of Blu-rays for Christmas. I didn't realize I was living with Scrooge.
No,
over
you're not
here.
living with
Oh
Scrooge.
God, the worst. I love
The
Christmas
shopping
shopping.
part.
I am not
the
at all
unwrapping.
sick of Christmas shopping. I love Christmas shopping. One of my favorite platforms to go Christmas shopping on is DIABOLIKDVD.com because it's a one-stop shopping experience that has been entertaining fans of physical media for the last 20 years. It's the home of all weird horror cult cinema, and you can go there and buy things and have a wonderful time. Shopping's fun. You're weird. If you are not Scrooge and you enjoy shopping, go to diabolicdvd.com and browse some of the amazing Blu-rays they have for a selection there from some of your favorite cult labels of all the different Blu-rays. What are some of the Blu-ray labels they have on there?
Like, let's see, Cauldron Films, Arrow, Synapse, Blue Underground, Mono Macabre, and so many more from around the world have you covered.
I actually sometimes use Diabolic DVD to like figure out my choice for the double feature that we bring to this show because one, I may not have the Blu-ray, and if I don't have the Blu-ray, I want the Blu-ray because the Blu-ray typically has a lot of special features on it that are really, really good for helping source, you know, extra supplementary materials to bring to our discussions here.
Sometimes we like to watch the special features.
And there's often no finer way to see the newest restoration. For example, in Billy Wilder's film Ace in the Hole.
Ooh, good choice.
I love that movie. It features Kirk Douglas as an ace journalist trapped in a hole trying to make his big hole-in-one journalist expose that's going to catapult him to the top of his career journey, and he's willing to do it at any cost, maybe even his souls. I love that movie, and I mean there's just so many ace in the hole type hole-in-one movies that you can find on Diabolic.
Again, Johnny on the nose picked a golf movie because, you know, like you're watching this episode going hole-in-one. Why haven't they picked a golf movie? So had to go with the obvious choice. So I went with Dennis Dugan's Happy Gilmore.
Oh yay! I
Yes.
didn't know that was on Diabolic.
It is in
Fun.
There's a new 4K version that's out that has a brand new 4K transfer. It's got new commentaries, which is cool, and outtakes and deleted scenes that I don't think were on previous versions. So if you just watched Happy Gilmore 2 on that streaming service and want to go, I want to watch the definitive version of Happy Gilmore with It's All in the Hips in glorious 4K, Diabolic DVD has you covered. Because for the holidays, get this shit, we are officially promo coding.
Woo!
Yes,
Oh.
we are now.
Very
We
excited
are
about
the
it.
real deal because
I love
we have
a promo code.
Who doesn't love a promo code? And if you use the code ACOF 1225, you get 10% off of any order $100 or above. Now that doesn't count taxes and shipping and all that, but this can be the perfect thing so that you can get all of your cool physical media gifts out of the way in one fell swoop with a great promo code that gets you 10% off.
Yeah, for the people who don't enjoy online shopping, you can also use it multiple times over a throughout December.
If you just have a lot of people that you want to get gifts for, use that promo code and get all of your friends the gift of physical media. So whether you're looking for that definitive version of Beastmaster or trying to upgrade that DVD of Ilsa Harem Keeper of the Oil Sheiks to glorious and disgusting 4K.
Disgusting.
Well, have you seen the movie?
Yeah.
Diabolic DVD is the owner-operated small business choice that you have been craving.
And that's at diabolicdvd.com, diabolikdvd.com. You can also visit its sister website, cauldronfilms.com. That's cauldronfilms with a hyphen in the middle.
And now, back to the show.
Can we use the promo code?
Can we use the promo code, guys? Anyone? Please?
And now, on with the show.
And we're back. And god damn it, I wish we had milkshakes.
Oh.
If I say I'm an oil man, you will agree. This is my son and my partner, H.W. Plainview.
You boys are a regular family business.
You boys are a little late.
We'll offer $1 million for full title.
What else would I do with myself?
You spend time with your boy.
Don't tell me how to raise my family. One night I'm gonna come to you wherever you're sleeping and I'm gonna cut your throat. Rated R.
This fucking movie, man.
This has always been, to me, the benchmark of like his greatness.
He was like, you know, kind of a mini Scorsese or a mini Tarantino. And when this movie came out, this was a couple years after Punch Drunk Love. So he had a little bit of time in between those films. And this was a very decidedly different approach to movie making than he was used to before, or that we were used to from him.
I love how this movie begins. I know you were kind of not convinced when I first brought this movie up, as opposed to how it related to A Hole in One. But the very first shot of the movie is technically one man in a hole. Daniel Plainview, played, you know, very famously by Daniel Day-Lewis, Oscar-winning performance. He is soundless. It's 1898 on the frontier, and he's a silver miner. We see him down this hole with this kind of amazing light just sort of shining down.
And you mean by silence, there's no dialogue.
Yes.
The first 20 minutes, there's absolutely no dialogue.
Absolutely no dialogue at all. Just this lonely, backbreaking work. It's the kind of work, it attracts the kind of people who want to gamble, get rich quick kind of a scheme, which is what I often think of in terms of like the expression A Hole in One. Like someone will say like, get something right on the first attempt. It's like, oh, hole in one.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I thought of this movie, is because, you know, it's not the kind of work that would attract someone who was fine just being a cog in a wheel, working an everyday job, slowly building up some money.
It is a commitment to take a hole all the way down the way that he does. Like,
and he's wanting to, he's clearly like, you know, wasn't born into wealth or anything. And he just wants to make, have his one hole to get him out of the hole financially. And then his obsessive single-minded pursuit of it is, I think, really well established when you see him fall down the hole and snap his leg into, and then he wakes up freaking out, and you're like, oh, well, sure, yeah, you'd be freaking out too. Like, you know, you could have died.
That's one of those moments where you could almost go back and go like, did he die right there and the rest of the movie was fake? No, it's
I'm not going to pull one of those.
It's not that. It's not that.
You realize that he's not actually freaking out for himself. He's freaking out because he can't find the silver that he mined. And then he finds it and he's like, oh, okay, phew. And then he's fine with like wrestling himself out of the hole and then like dragging his broken leg body all the way into town. But he goes to the people who evaluate these things, and then you see him just lying there with his broken leg. You get immediately the impression like, oh, this guy is
determined.
And similarly to Reinhardt,
they're very, very similar.
Is so intensely convinced that he is the one. He is the one that's going to rise above the others, and he will make it, that he won't listen to anyone or anything.
And if there's competition, out of the way.
It wasn't enough money to get him out of the hole entirely, but it was enough money to reinvest in the hole. So he's reinvested in his hole, but now it's in California. It's a bigger hole. He has more people working for him. He's mining for oil now. One of his workers dies while down the hole, leaving behind an infant orphan that Plainview then adopts. And it's not until he adopts a son that we finally hear our first real dialogue in the movie, the nuance of his character. In a way, he is bonding with the child.
Bonding like an employee.
It's funny that the story doesn't really seem to begin until he has his son. Like, he does seem to value leaving behind some kind of a blood lineage. And he does kind of see his son as his means of doing that. Like, he takes him around with him everywhere. He uses his son as like this sales gimmick, essentially, to show
it's part of the whole of lies that he starts to dig even deeper.
Well, he's a bit of a, not a con
he
man,
delivers,
but
he knows how to weave a tale that sounds really good in a sales pitch.
And it's amazing that HW, the son, is just kind of in all of these moments where he's weaving these tall tales to kind of get the sale, to get the money. Like, his son is almost witness to his acts of misdeed or his unchristian acts or something. Like, he needs him to record it all down. It's never enough to get out of, it's never his hole in one, so to speak. Like, he is constantly just getting a bit more to get a bit more to get a bit more. Like, it's always scratching away until Paul Sunday walks into his life. And this is like 1910, so there are a lot of people struggling out on the frontier, And he said there's a lot of oil under their feet that they don't even know about. They can't dig for oil. And he is willing to sell them this information for just $500, and he's never seen again for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
It's just,
not in that version.
yeah. Daniel and HW go out to this farm and claim to be just like hunting for quail. And again, HW knows that they're lying. Like, he's so familiar at this point with the routine of, like Reinhardt says, the ends justify the means. And that's kind of like HW has been trained to believe that, like, look out for number one first, but he thinks he is part of the number one. Daniel Plainview is like, no, I'm number one.
Yeah.
You're number two, kid. And the kid's kind of like,
And
no, we're
anyone
both
else is
number one.
competition.
And Daniel's like, this is it. This is our hole in one.
Yeah.
If we can make this work, we'll finally be able to make the money that we're supposed to be making, that we should have been making this whole time, because we'll be able to build our own pipeline, not have to deal with all these, like, you know, Shell or oil companies. This will be our oil. And otherwise it's just mud. He brings all his company men in. They start buying up the land, building their derricks, their oil wells. And this amazing tension begins between Daniel Plainview and Eli Sunday, played by Paul Dano, the same guy who played Paul Sunday, because they're twin brothers. He represents kind of, I guess, religion, like church.
Like on the nose.
Yeah.
He's an evangelical preacher.
Yeah, the Church of the Third Evangelist or something. Like, it sounds very kind of culty.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they're both men who crave power and an individual sense of achievement. Like, they both were born thinking of themselves as better than, not just like different than, better than. And there's a great kind of dichotomy between the two, where you could say the two pillars of civilization was really church and money. They both represent the very sort of individualist sense of self-aggrandizement. Daniel's like a hole in one. Eli believes in one's own holiness.
Eli is a holy man, and he is, you know, kind of entrenched in the whole of religion, whereas Daniel Plainview is kind of worshiping himself.
They both are.
Yeah, no, of course. But he feels that, like, and this, I wanted to pose this question while we're at this point in the conversation. Do you feel like until the baptism scene, which comes later on, do you think that Daniel Plainview is atheist?
For sure.
He
is the
himself.
higher power. I mean,
he worships himself.
Both films, I think, give the sense of, like, if you're so egocentrically driven, you must... I think they both just think of themselves as the ultimate higher power governing their destiny. They both have God
complexes.
Yeah. I know for a minute believe in Eli's, that he's as much of a grifter. In fact, perhaps even more of a grifter in some ways.
The more we go through the story, like there's definite moments where it's like, he's a total huckster.
Yeah, I mean, like, even the score, that like sickening kind of descent in scales, like that feels like something sinking into the ground. When another accident happens, HW is deafened, making his ears just like two useless holes on each side of his head.
In the scene when it's like the overhead shot of Daniel behind HW when he's trying to talk, and you can just feel how Daniel Plainview is a man of opportunistic drive. He will find someone that will be able to help him get his goal, and when that person is no longer needed, he's extracted, or she. And there's just the look on his face when he now realizes that he can't communicate with HW in a way that is going to be opportunistic for his goals.
But I also think that there was something important about HW, because we don't hear him speak very often. He is very much like a recording device. Like,
he's absorbing all the things. He's almost like us in a way.
Yeah, but
watching
I think
all this.
It's also that HW for him was his human recording device to tell the world of his achievements and be like the heir, so to speak. And when he can no longer hear him, like, he can no longer absorb all the information that Daniel has to offer, it's sort of like, like he's been this waste of investment for him.
There's a pivotal moment I never noticed before when HW is going through the book. Daniel's book. Henry's book.
So Henry is this random man who turns up and claims to be Daniel's long lost brother. And he has this diary.
The moment that was heartbreaking for me, that I would not have picked up if I didn't have the theme in the back of my head a little bit, is not only can he no longer hear, but when he opens the book and he's flipping through it and it's upside down, and this is never really addressed, but you just kind of fill in the spaces. He never learned how to read. So now he's this poor young kid who can't hear and can't read. He can't communicate. He is now stuck in a hole.
Again, the theme of the hole as the movie develops, like you see these kind of last tethers that Daniel has with humanity. I mean, Henry kind of replaces HW in a way. He starts bringing him to all his meetings as just like this recording human to actually just pay witness to his like God complex achievement. As the hole gets bigger and bigger, both literally as his oil well gets bigger, figuratively, you feel like the hole inside of him of like hate and bitterness is getting bigger and built deeper. More and more like inside of him too. Like he even says to Henry, like, I never saw much what to like about people. Like he says he's like a misanthropic
At that point, he's a bottomless pit.
There's a great shot where they go swimming together and they almost seem like a double act. There's a shot where they're both leaning forward and Henry looks like Daniel's shadow. Henry doesn't reply. He's like, I say, let's go to the peach tree down. You can tell by Daniel's face, this is obviously like an in-joke from where they grew up. And Henry doesn't register.
And that's where, shit.
When that happens, Daniel breaks the shadow of them. Like he breaks apart and then he goes swimming. And that's such a great cut. I don't know if this is a little bit too detailed, but
the wipe,
when his hand goes by and they use that at the cut. It's so tiny,
That's one of
but
the
it's
few
a great cut point.
Old PTA flourishes that he and Dylan Treichner, who was the editor, that went like, because they use that a lot.
Well, whenever you
use
motion as a cut point in a scene, you're automatically isolating that person from the rest of the frame. That's why it's used to great effect in Jaws when they're on Roy Scheider and the people the motion is constantly a cut point. It makes you feel stressed out, but it also makes the person to whom they keep cutting back to, they are now like this separated voyeur. And that's kind of what Daniel has become, because he's realized that HW was right. Henry isn't who he says he is, and he sent HW away to let Henry replace him, even though HW begged for Daniel not to leave him. Daniel sends him off, shoots him without mercy, puts a hole in his head. He needed that like a hole in the head. And it's a beautiful shot of like the oil and the blood commingling as he buries him. You see him read Henry's diary and he starts weeping, and it's for this kind of grief, not just for his lost family, but for himself. Like, because he kind of realizes that he is just like, this was his last chance of a family life, like his last link to the rest of the world. Like now he's like a machine of ambition. He is just a family of one. The really famous, obviously, scene where this is Eli's opportunity to get it all back and to get his revenge, and he forces Daniel to say the worst possible things that a man could have to admit of his guilt, and he gets a hole in one, nails it. What's Daniel most ashamed of, and it's abandoning his child and not being a real, not being able to experience that sense of connection, that love, that blood that everyone else gets to have. He doesn't have any of that. He's this complete, sociopathic misanthrope. And when he screams like, I've abandoned my child, I've abandoned my boy, like these moments, it's this last guttural admonition.
It's the one moment in the movie thematically where he almost climbs out of the hole.
Yeah.
And then did you ever notice, and I never did this time like until now, but after he's been baptized and after you have that one moment where you go, this might be a turning point for him. He might have become human again, or he might have seen the error of his ways and gone, I need to make things right. He goes over to Eli, and in the subtitles, there's nothing. It just says inaudible, but he says something to Eli, and then he slicks his hair back, and then he turns around, and then he's Daniel Plainview again, because he's achieved his goal. So for the few 2 or 3 minutes where you go, he might be human again. Holy
another
crap.
sales
It
gimmick.
was just it was grift. He's about to make a deal with the two businessmen who want to take the pipeline off of his hands. He goes, well, what do I do then? That to me is his curse, is that success, even if he finds success, even if he finds wealth, which he does, like subsequently we start to speed plot through his successes, and then there's mansions, and then there's the boredom of success.
Well, we see him also his progressing alcoholism.
And he goes further down into the bottle.
He doesn't just refuse. He brings HW back, but there's nothing to be done. The damage has been done. There's distance between them, and he refuses to learn the sign language that HW has in order to communicate now. And he not only refuses to learn HW's new form of communication, he doubles down on drinking, and so doesn't communicate in any real way. Like, he just completely isolates himself in his own hate. The years have passed. He has achieved what he set out to achieve. His whole came through. As it were, he achieved his hole in one. He now has a huge, big mansion, like all this land
Big
that he
dogs
lives,
lounging around,
and lives all alone. He always craved. He always said, that he craved solitary confinement, and he's got it. Like Reinhardt, he got what he wanted.
There's a difference in the performance. There's a difference in even the way that the film is shot. From the very first moment, there's a kineticism, that PTA brings to it. Every time he, uses the pickaxe, and there's sparks coming out, and the way that it's shot and the way that it's cut, there is an energy to it that feels like the old PTA in a way. But then when we get to the final act, the dissolves are very long.
Yeah,
the shots
languid.
Are Barry Lyndon-esque, where they are very still, almost boring in a way.
Yeah,
and that completely personifies what Daniel is going through now. He doesn't have that spark in life that he was using with a pickaxe. It's all gone.
It's so bizarre that he craved to be alone, but he was never able to live with himself, like with that loneliness. And so that's why he basically just self-medicates with booze. And the one last scene he has with his son, HW, wants to leave. He wants to start a name for himself in Mexico, start his own oil well.
He's got a wife.
Daniel clearly has never been able to resolve himself to the fact that HW, like over his accident, like he's never learned how to speak his new language. He even, has a horrible moment when they're having this confrontation where he mimics the sign for digging a hole at him, like mocks him for trying to be a man when he's like, got this damage.
That was of his making.
Yes. He throws it back to HW, that HW is the one who has like been growing up with all this this ever-growing hole of hate and greed and like jealousy within him, and that he's killing the family. He's talking about himself.
Yep.
He's the one with this ever-growing hole of hate building inside of him, like this hollowing him out.
And also drops the bomb that he's an orphan.
Finally tells HW that he's not even a blood relation, but HW takes it pretty well because he ends up leaving, going with Mary to Mexico and actually thanking God that he isn't related to him. He doesn't have his blood inside him, his sickness, really.
I think that there's a moment in that confrontation where you can see HW relieved.
Well, it's like blood is thicker than water, and what is thicker than blood is oil. And it's almost like Daniel has oil in his veins.
Yeah, he is literally bleeding oil.
And then he has one last visitor, Eli, who the years have been perhaps even less kind to than Daniel, has lost all of his wealth. He's made bad investments.
Lost his congregation.
Exactly. Wants to start a business deal with Daniel. Daniel says, yes, of course, but first you have to say that God is a superstition and that you are a false prophet. It takes him he makes a very pathetic attempt.
He gives up he folds pretty quick.
Exactly. It's only once he's said that and is forced to repeat it louder and louder, the same way Eli did to Daniel in his church. It's funny that it's a bowling alley, because it's almost like that's the American civilization of church now. It's like a bowling alley.
Down to bowling.
Yeah.
And how the film was so big and so sprawling, and we end the movie in a tiny little room.
Yeah, Daniel finally reveals to him that there is no land to be, there is no dealings to be done, because he's already, like, there's no point. He's already sucked all the oil out of that land. The land is now devoid of oil. It's dead. And he describes it like a milkshake in the really famous quote.
Your milkshake.
If I have a straw, and if you have a straw, I will.
It's the attractiveness of taking the word milkshake
Yeah.
and putting it into the mouth of Daniel Day-Lewis.
But also, like, the imagery of the straw. It's like, I suck it up.
Yep.
Such a crazy. And one has the impression at this point that if you were to stick a straw into Daniel Plainview and sucked it up, all you'd get is, like, oily
oil.
grease.
Yeah.
The oil bubbling to the surface. It gives the impression of, like, ugly, oily things bubbling to the surface. I'm trying not to think of, like, a zit right now. But, like, you know what I mean? Like, just ugly things coming up. In this whole scene, you just see all the ugliness.
Because he's been holding it in for so long.
Hole of oil of ugliness inside him, just all bubbling to the surface, and it's about to burst, like the Derek does that deafens HW and says to Eli, I beat you. And then he literally beats the shit out of him with a bowling pin and smacks a hole in his head. And, like, I love that last shot so much, that you see the blood of Eli going into the gutter ball and going down the bowling alley, going underground back to where the film first started.
There's a moment, there's the low angle shot when he first hits Eli in the head, and it's almost like he found that drive again in that one moment where he went, I have a purpose. I have something that I need to excavate. Just like in the beginning of the film when he was down in that hole, when he finally saw that bubbling crew come up, that's where he went, there's my purpose. I found another hole to dig. And you see, and you're right, when you see the very dark viscous liquid shooting out, and then he has that final line.
I'm finished.
That sent
I'm finally
chills.
done. I know. Same. It's such a great
he even
last
says,
line.
like, you know, again, to go back to what I mentioned before, what do I do then? You know, his determination finally climaxes with the taking of another person's life by his own hand. That was his ultimate goal.
His last
supposedly.
hole in one.
Yep.
I feel like it ultimately, I know it may be a little esoteric, but speaks to the theme in a lot of incredibly interesting, wide-ranging ways, and most effectively, I guess, about the holes in oneself and how if we don't fill these gaping needs that we have for validation, desire, love, happiness, satisfaction, achievement, all these human needs, if we don't fill them with things that are just about the satisfaction of the moment and being happy in your own skin and in yourself, then you're ultimately filling this hole with nothing. You're just digging and digging and digging deeper and deeper into yourself until you're just hollowed out. And that's like, I don't know, I think it's just there's something like incredibly beautifully done, rendered within this movie, how they accomplish it. And Daniel Plainview, to me, is like iconic.
Again, one of the reasons why I love this show is that there's no other show out there anywhere that would pair There Will Be Blood and The Black Hole together yet, and also with the theme where you're going, well, of course it's going to be a golf movie.
Yeah, neither of us did that.
Neither of us did that. Both of us brought these two movies about men that have these holes in their hearts that are completely driven to madness by ambition and drive. Like, nowhere else would you get that conversation with these two movies, and yet there's so many similar parallels.
Yes.
Kind of, in a way, reflections of the American dream that's turned sour.
Gone wrong, yeah.
Completely wrong.
Like a milkshake left out in the beating sun of the frontier at the turn of the century. It's gone sour.
And I'd still drink it up!
Ew.
Finally,
Last call!
I would say definitely an interesting double feature.
I kind of liked the version of how we watched them together, because it was almost like we got the baby version of the theme and then the fully grown adult version of the theme.
In terms of the order, I think we definitely made the right choice.
Yeah. Was it a hole in one?
I would say a hole in two. We definitely sunk the putt.
But please let us know what movies you would have picked. We had dinner with Bret Easton Ellis, a little bit of a just drop that
Drop
there.
that name right there.
The other night, and asked him what he would have picked, and he picked Buried with Ryan Reynolds as one man stuck in a hole the entire movie. So it takes all sorts.
Yes.
But let us know what you would have brought either to a triple feature with these two films or what you would have programmed entirely without them if you don't agree with our picks at all.
Of course, we bring out the sorting
trusty
hat.
sorting hat.
Yes.
It is my time.
All filled with lovely themes. Get it in the hole.
Yeah.
And
let's
you can
see if
only
this
take
is a
one.
hole-in-one.
Here we go. Okay. And next week's theme is...
Ooh, snow days.
Hey, all right. Well, it is December. So next week's episode will be Snow Days, which... Can I pick Misery again? I know, no, I can't pick Misery again, but this should prove very interesting. Follow us on Instagram and the main Couple of Old Fashions handle, and then also each of ours. This is where we go, mine and Becca's as well, okay? Also, if you want a full list of all the movies that we have talked about, either the main films or every single other movie that we might have mentioned, even vicariously, like just offhanded talked about some crappy movie, they're all on the list. They're all burping out of Becca's mouth, and they're on Letterboxd. You can follow me at the Joe Lynch, and you can find that list. Like and subscribe. We got to do the YouTube thing. So if you like the show, tell your friends. Thank you so much to DIABOLICDVD.com for sponsoring this episode. Keep physical media alive. Shop DIABOLICDVD.com. And if you use the promo code seen on the screen right here, you can get 10% off any order over $100, taxes and shipping not included. There you go. All right. Well, happy December, and we will see you next week with another episode of A Couple of Old Fashions.
For all of you doing turkey trots out there this Thanksgiving, please remember that movies are not the only marathon worth participating in, or they are the only marathon worth participating in, and they are what date nights are made for. See, I told you I was getting back. You didn't even cue me. You forgot about it. I see.
I saw
you forget about it. Yeah.
Maybe because I didn't have any faith.
Good thing one of us is good at remembering things.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.